So here we are, Harley Davidson Road Glide. Do I like it? I like the engine. The engine is gorgeous. That 103 cubic inch motor is absolutely beautiful. Very, very tractable. Don't like the fairing. And there's certainly no way you could filter this bugger through traffic. But it certainly attracts the looks. And it is extremely torquey. Back-to-back comparison with my BMW. The BM's a better bike, straight up. However, it doesn't have the same sense of theatre which you get riding this thing. The gearbox is on a par. And it does have a lovely growl on the engine. Exhaust note's a bit castrated, obviously, to conform to noise regulations. And the fairing doesn't do a lot of good as far as lowering the wind noise, you know, in comparison to, say, an RT fairing. Brakes are very good for a Harley. That's 70 miles an hour. And it's noisy. You know, even with me helmet down, it's still very noisy, far more noisy than the 1200 BMW. Wing mirrors are good. Nice big fuel gauge, I do like that. Keyless ignition, obviously. And you do get that lovely sound. Throttle's nice and responsive. Although it's a bit sluggish on top gear roll-ons. Let's say 60 mile an hour. I think you'd have to kick it down one on the motorway. It's definitely more comfortable between 50 and 70. Anything over about 70, and I did find it quite uncomfortable. I certainly do not like all this. I think it spoils the look of the bike for starters. And because you can't see where your front wheel is in relation to the bars when you first get on it, it is very, very difficult to suss out what your turning circle is. So I don't really like that. But I do like the engine. I really like the engine. I'm going to take a guess, top gear is probably an overdrive, because there's no serious kick on the roll on there. That's us back in top gear. We're doing what, 45 mile an hour and just under 2000 RPM, and it doesn't like it. Fifth gear, just over 2000 RPM, it feels much more comfortable. So I think top gear is very much a motorway cruising gear. I haven't worked out how the cruise control works, but I'm assuming it's that button there. Right, let's go for see what it's like on a few twisties, shall we? Needless to say, I won't be chucking it around like I will my BMW, but it's not that sort of bike. You know, it's definitely not a backyard scratcher. And also with it being a loaner, one doesn't really want to be caning it. But it's comfortable once you've got used to the seating position. Footboards are very nice. You certainly won't be breaking any speed records on it. But it's comfortable. It's got reasonable amounts of poke. And of course you have got that beautiful engine noise all the time. Why anyone would want a radio is beyond me. Gearbox reminds me a lot of an old R100. Clunky. But it does put a grin on your face, this bike. It's not the prettiest Harley I've ever seen. I think if you took all this shit off it, it would be quite pretty though. You know, chuffing along at 15 mile an hour, it's very, very stable. But it is very, very, very wide. Even in comparison to my BMW, which is wide, this is a lot wider. I would have said it's wider than an RT actually. You know, pootling through this little village, I'm in second gear, under 20 mile an hour, very, very stable. I'm impressed. I've got to say I am impressed. Certainly it's the best Harley I've ever ridden, but it is the first twin cam I've ever been on. You know, you just got that lovely growl. But it's not really the classic Harley Davidson putter, putter, putter. It's very easy to keep under the speed limit, much easier than the BMW. Now I've got a bit more confidence in it. It is a fun bike to ride. Certainly wouldn't like to push it outside its comfort zone. And the back suspension's very stiff. It's not the armchair I expected. It actually holds the road very well, but you do tend to feel every bump. And I don't think a pillion would do very well on the back, because the seat is, well, it slopes away from the rider. You know, just rolling in and out of these roundabouts, it is very, very nice. But would I swap BM for it? Now there's a question. I love the engine, but I'm not sold on the package. You know, a nice bit of vibration at tick over, but the moment I bring the threads up, it smooths right out. So the rubber mounting works very, very well on the motor. You know, and in second gear, you do get quite a nice roar. Certainly it's very much a bike for people who like to attract attention to themselves. It would be very, very hard to slip notice of the plod if you were nailing it down the motorway. But it's not really the sort of bike you'd nail down the motorway. And I think I will enjoy riding one across America. But as to whether or not I would trade my BMW in for one, I doubt it. It's nothing like as comfortable. Although I have to say that could just be the fact that there's not a lot of travel in that rear suspension and the seat's very hard. I certainly wouldn't like to be sat on it all day. But it could be the fact that my arse is just BMW E5. And it's trained to, you know, my arse is trained to a BMW C. But I do like the engine. The engine is without doubt the best bit of the package. Although at under 10 mile an hour, it's, you know, nice and stable, fairly easy to ride. And because you sat quite low, the centre of balance is very low, which means it rumbles along quite nicely. But I can't ride it with quite the same level of enthusiasm that I would be riding my 1200 Beamer. And at 1600 cc's, or thereabouts, 103 cubic inches, I personally would like a little bit more power from the engine. It doesn't feel as powerful as the 1200 BMW. But it is a lovely tractable motor. I just feel that there could be more in it. However, it is lugging a hell of a lot of weight. So, marks out of 10. I'd give the brakes a 7. I'd give the motor a 10. Straight off. It's let down a little bit by the gearbox, which is agricultural even by BMW standards. Handling, well, you can't expect a lot from it. Let's face it, it's a touring Harley Davidson. So for a bike of its type, I would give the handling another 7. Finish, well, it's done in this satin. I don't personally like it. It looks unfinished to me, and it's not a pretty Harley Davidson. So looks, I'd only give it a 5. Livability, and that for me is where it would really fall down. I'd only really give it a 4. It's not, it wouldn't be practical in the lakes, put it that way. In part because of the rear suspension, but also the fact that you can't see your front wheel. Although obviously you get used to that. Now the question is, do I like it? Yes, I do. I like it a lot more than I thought I would. It puts a grin on your face. And it does put a grin on your face, there's no two ways about that. Whoops, wrong button. I definitely prefer my BMW. So, Harley Davidson Road Glide. I enjoyed that.